Welcome to the Coin Stories podcast, where we talk about investing, hard money, Bitcoin, and how technology is revolutionizing the global economy. I'm Natalie Brunell, and I'm here to learn with you. So this is for educational and entertainment purposes only. None of the discussions should constitute as official investment advice, and you should always do your own research. This show is made possible through partnerships with companies I trust, and I'm very picky about who I partner with. So I hope you take the time to listen to the ad reads throughout the show. First up, Swan. I partnered with Swan because it is a Bitcoin-only company that is focused on helping people save for their future and self-custody their Bitcoin. Swan can help you start a direct deposit to take advantage of Bitcoin as a savings technology and learn how to take it off the exchange. Swan's mission is to educate 10 million future Bitcoiners through free resources and media projects like the Hard Money Show. Swan also offers retirement planning with an IRA, tax loss harvesting, and a white glove private client service. I use Swan to dollar cost average, and I deposit a little bit every day that's equivalent to what I might spend on a meal so that I add to my future nest egg and lower my yearly cost basis. Swan Studios produces my hard money news reports, simplifying Bitcoin for mass audiences and documenting Bitcoin adoption around the world. To learn more and get $10 in free Bitcoin, head to swanbitcoin.com/Natalie Brunell. All right, next up, Bitcoin Conference 2024. The world's largest Bitcoin event is headed to Nashville next year. Early bird tickets are now available, and this is the lowest cost you'll be able to secure for the conference all year. And if you use the code HODL, HODL, you'll get an extra 10% off. So come join us for 3 great days of networking events, panels, keynotes, workshops, and more. You never know what big name might be announced when tickets are much, much higher in price. Head to b.tc/conference and use the code HODL. I'll see you there. All right, it's time for the show. I am so excited to have with me today someone that I consider a very close friend in the Bitcoin space and someone that I really look up to, and she is blazing a trail. I'm really proud of her. Martell Fox, she's the founder of Layer 4 Talent, which is a recruitment firm in the Bitcoin space. Martell, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Natalie, you definitely blazed a trail for women like me to get involved in Bitcoin. So happy to finally chat about this.
Well, that's really too kind. And I appreciate Martell's help. She actually helped me set up the women's brunch in Miami, which was very successful. But I want to take the time to hear all about you because you are a very interesting lady and you've accomplished a lot. So first, let's take it all the way back. You're from Paradise, California. So tell me about your upbringing and what it was like to grow up there.
Yeah, of course. So I'm from Paradise. It's a small mountain town in the Sierra Nevadas in Northern California. I actually moved back here after quite a while living away. Yeah, it was a wonderful upbringing. I think when I was a child, I really loved it, like exploring in nature all the time, climbing trees, adventure. And then probably as a teenager, I was like, let's get out of here, small town. I need more opportunity. Ended up going to school in San Francisco, playing soccer there. And yeah, found my way to Europe, was an English teacher at some point, was working in events. I found my way to Barcelona to figure things out, teach English there. I taught dance as well. Moved back to Santa Barbara and just started working in the event industry. That was a very cool experience of doing like luxury corporate events and just taking care of people. During that experience, though, I really realized like it would be better to be on the other side, being one of the companies that come enjoy the retreats that we were doing. So moved to Paris. I got a job in a tech company there, kind of a foot in the door, doing like administrative office management. And about 2 weeks later, I started doing recruitment. And that's when I really fell in love with what I was doing and felt like I found my path. So stayed with that company for about 5 years, helped them grow from 10 people to 250 people. I got to really experiment with company culture, with recruitment styles, and yeah, experiment with what to grow a company. And then after that, that's when I discovered Bitcoin and met IBEX and totally fell in love with that project. Enjoyed meeting a lot of people in the space. I ended up moving to a COO position from a chief people officer position at IBEX. And I think through that opportunity, I discovered, okay, what I really love is this people stuff. I've known that's what I'm best at. And looking out to the Bitcoin space, it just felt like, okay, this is what I can do in this space. This is what I can do to contribute to the Bitcoin mission, I'm going to use my best skills and my best talent to do that. So that's how we got to layer four. So started about 2 months ago, been very busy ever since, but never felt more motivated. That's kind
Okay.
of the long story.
Well, I want to dig into some of that. Can't wait to hear about your company. But first of all, okay, so you went to school in San Francisco. You wanted to get out of the small town, live in the big city. I think you mentioned that you played soccer in school, but then you went to Europe and you were an
Yeah.
English teacher. So what did you study in school, and why did you want to go overseas and become an English teacher?
Yeah. I was just really figuring it out. I was quite lost at that time. I studied communications. So, yeah, growing up, I was pretty shy. I was like so shy in school. Maybe I would like be more active in the classroom or at sports. I really needed like a task, but socializing was hard for me.
Ugh.
So I started taking communication classes in college because they were like making me feel strong at something that I had always been really poor at. And so really dived in. I got some of my first jobs at that time. I was working at like a comedy club. I was working at a karaoke sushi bar and just tried to dive into everything and really practice communicating. And it's funny now because now I feel like I could talk to anyone. And that's a lot of what my job is talking to people, learning about people. But yeah, 10, 15 years ago, I would be completely shocked that I'm even able to do a podcast right now. And sometimes I still get nervous, as you know, but yeah, studied communication. Glad I did it. Was very confused and not sure if it was right at the time, but makes sense now.
That is so surprising because anytime that we've been together at the Bitcoin events, you are so warm and inviting, and you talk to people and you go up to people and you ask them about, where they're from, and you make them feel
Yeah.
really comfortable, which is a quality I really admire in people, because it's really, you make people feel like they can become your friend, which is really, really nice, especially in the Bitcoin space. So that's surprising and really, really cool. What was the tech company that you worked for that got you into recruitment?
It was called Swapcard. So it was founded by a couple of friends, and they're some of my close friends today. And it was an event technology platform. So at the event, if you are going there to meet people or do business, and it's a 500,000 person event, how are you meeting and interacting with the right person? We built a SaaS platform to handle these large scale events, cater to exhibitors, to attendees, and
Wow.
the businesses throwing them.
Okay, so how did you actually hear about Bitcoin? Did you hear about IBEX first, or were you already a Bitcoin holder? How did that all work?
Yeah. Well, I think like many people, I heard about Bitcoin like years before actually having curiosity and taking initiative to learn about it. So, yeah, regret not paying attention when I was in San Francisco.
Do you remember
I
how
think it
you
was about
first heard about it?
2020. I know I heard about it in school, but it was like I blew it off.
Okay.
But 2020 is when I paid attention. I think, yeah, I was already like I was on Robinhood at that time. I was curious about cryptocurrencies, and I ended up owning Bitcoin. Um, my current partner, he was a big Bitcoiner before me. And I remember when we were first meeting, he asked me, like, we are talking about these things. I was telling him, like, how I do my investments. And he talked about Bitcoin. I was like, oh, I have Bitcoin. I'm a Bitcoiner too. But I really didn't know what any of it meant at the time. And then started diving deeper. You listen to the podcast, you start learning about it. And at that time, 2020, pretty down about what was going on in the world. And Bitcoin was really, a guiding light, a hope that I had been missing for a while. It just seemed like the powers that exist are so strong. There's nothing we can do about it to change. And then discovered what Bitcoin actually is and thought, wow, there's a chance for a better world. There's a chance for a better future. How do I get involved and make sure this happens?
Did you have a certain way you viewed money when you were younger that maybe changed after you learned about Bitcoin?
That's a good question. I think I always valued money a lot, like, was trying to wheel and deal even as a teen, like try to make money, try to gain independence. Um, I had, yeah, I was very lucky that I got introduced to the stock market pretty early on and at a young age. So my first idea of money and investing was really like long term, hold for the long term. that's why Bitcoin kind of was very intuitive right when I learned about it. Um, for my investments prior, it's like mutual funds. You put money in, you never touch it. So yeah, I don't know if my views really changed. I felt like Bitcoin really was the answer of what I'd been looking for. I was very frustrated, I think, growing up with the monetary system, frustrated with how we're governed as a people. So Bitcoin seemed like everything I had been hoping there could be. And yeah,
So when you learned about Bitcoin, what was it that made you feel like this actually has a chance? That despite the powers that exist in the financial system and how corrupt things seem to have gotten, and how you mentioned it, especially during the pandemic, I think we all felt this sense that the world is just going in this wrong direction. Why did you feel like Bitcoin actually does provide hope that it can be different and it could be better?
yeah. I guess the finite number, like how many Bitcoin there are, gives me a lot of hope. Comparing to other cryptocurrencies where there's like a CEO, there's a team of people, like knowing that Bitcoin is just distributed to us who own it, and that's who stands to gain. I suppose the defining moment was when I went down to El Salvador. I got to go there a few times the last few years, and that's when it really clicked because you're there, you meet the kids there, you go to the Hope House and you see how inspired everyone is. And at a time where in US it was feeling like it was on the decline. In Europe, if I was there, it was feeling like things are going downhill. Then you go to El Salvador and it feels things are on the up, things are on the incline, people are happy, they're smiling, they're excited. Yeah, the kids, they're dreaming about the future and all the things they can do. And then you learn about the history there and how that wasn't even possible 5, 10 years ago. And yeah, that was where it was like, aha, there's something here very special going on. What is that? And then discovering the Lightning Network in that process. And then I was hooked. I had to work in a Lightning company.
I love it. Okay, so tell us about IBEX, because I feel like the name comes up a lot. They sponsor these big
Yeah.
events. And so for people that aren't familiar, what is IBEX and what was your role there?
So IBEX is a Lightning infrastructure company. So they were the main sponsor at the Bitcoin Miami event. They're providing payment rails using the Lightning Network to all sorts of companies, enterprises, from small businesses selling coffees to huge conglomerates in the world running over multiple countries. So IBEX does that. They're an amazing team. So I joined them last year as a chief people officer. This was, I think, towards the end of the last bull market, and it was a plan. Like every company was like, "Let's grow, let's scale," and then of course the market turned for everyone, and I moved from a chief people officer, like focused on growing the team, to a chief of operations, which fantastic opportunity. I thought for myself, like, okay, maybe this is the next step in my career, like move from a people role to ops. And yeah, no matter how much the team was so wonderful and the project really exciting, I think I just want to get back to the people stuff. So yeah, hopefully I'll still work with IBEX as well.
Well, this is really exciting. Okay, so tell people about Layer 4 talent, because I get messages constantly of people who are in various industries and they want to contribute, they want to add value, and some of them want to leave their jobs entirely and work in Bitcoin. So, how did you start Layer 4 talent? Why? And what differentiates it from other recruitment companies out there?
Yeah. So something I noticed early on, even when I was applying for jobs myself, was that there's just not a lot of human resource professionals in the Bitcoin space. I think, there might be 5 or 6 of us now, and that number hopefully has grown. But yeah, I think seeing that there is a real need for people to come into the space with maybe different soft skills, add different values than, the people that are here now. It felt like, okay, there's something here I could help with recruitment. But I think I needed more time myself to like dive in and learn about the Bitcoin space. Then, a couple months ago, just really feeling like I want to get back to doing what I love the most, doing what I'm best at for the Bitcoin mission. Came up with the idea of Layer 4 and thought, let's just experiment. Might as well give it a try. My goal is like, okay, maybe, month one, I'll get one client. Now I have a number of clients growing every day, and yeah, already profitable, already, closing deals and finding wonderful people. And it's been really motivating. Yeah, I'm constantly talking to like very talented people. The roles that I'm recruiting for, they're executive or technical roles, sometimes technical executive roles. And those are the ones where I find myself so excited talking to all these brilliant people. Often I'm talking to people that are already working in the Bitcoin space, which is great. But then I'm constantly meeting people outside of the Bitcoin space. Maybe they're working in SaaS, maybe they're working in the broader fintech space, but they've heard about Bitcoin and they want to get involved. And I think that's what makes me so optimistic about Bitcoin as well, is just learning about all these really intelligent people, what they've been doing, how they want to contribute to the space. And then, of course, working with founders of companies. A lot of the companies I work for right now are early stage, and it's a beautiful thing. We're recruiting, we're finding top talent out there that are excited to work on a Lightning project. And then with those founders, it's a matter of helping them find a culture fit. So that's my expertise as the chief people officer, is building company culture. And now I'm realizing it's not just recruitment. I'm getting to help play a part and help guide these founders into how to build their culture, the decisions to make to do so. And yeah, it's been very exciting, and yeah, very, very optimistic about the future for layer four talent, or the talent space in the Bitcoin industry in general.
It's time for a quick break to hear these messages from my partners. First up, how would you like to earn 100,000 Satoshis? Well, here is your chance. Fold is the best Bitcoin rewards debit card and shopping app in the world. You can earn Bitcoin on everything you purchase, from Amazon to groceries to your Bitcoin conference tickets, with Fold's Bitcoin cashback debit card. And you can win free Satoshis every day, or even play for a whole Bitcoin by spinning the rewards wheel. You can also buy Bitcoin and stack sats directly on Fold and earn even more incentives and rewards. This is a great app to get someone totally new into Bitcoin, and way better than earning airline miles or hotel points. Head to foldapp.com/Natalie, and if you use my link, you'll get 100,000 sats when you sign up for Spin or Spin Plus and spend at least $20 on the card. I'm so excited to share that I have partnered with Coinkite, and we are committed to making sure everyone has the information they need to safely self-custody their Bitcoin. Coinkite produces the Cold Card wallet, which is the cold storage device I am switching to for safekeeping my Bitcoin. It is Bitcoin only. You can verify the source code. It's ultra secure. And as I'm learning, it's easy to use even if you're a beginner. If you head to their site in my show notes, you can find all of their products, from cold cards in different colors to seed plates, tap signers, sats cards, block clocks, which I have behind me, and more. I'm also in the process of creating some how-to videos on cold card, so watch out for those in the near future. Become your own bank with Bitcoin and Coinkite. All right, back to the show. Well, that's really exciting, and congratulations that it's already going so well. I'm not surprised, given your own talent. So tell me a little bit more, because right now we're in a bear market, and you would think that maybe even hiring slows down, but it sounds like, Lightning companies, Bitcoin companies, they are looking for people. So can you share, what are they looking for, and how are they growing despite the financial conditions that surround us?
Yeah, that is interesting. I'm definitely seeing so many job opportunities out there. I think it's still an employer's market. There's a lot of candidates out there. It seems to be more candidates than jobs right now. But I meet a lot of people who they're just dabbling. They're seeing what's out there, and they're even toying with the idea of building their own company. I've heard someone say, like, okay, the bear market is for building. Given the amount of like CTO or director of engineering searches I'm doing right now, I would say it sounds like there's a lot of new companies that, they're just in idea stage and they're looking for their co-founder. So a lot of building is going on. And then, yeah, I think with what's going on outside of the Bitcoin space and the broader financial markets, there's people looking into Lightning. So Goldman Sachs, for example, they're recruiting Lightning developers. A lot of these big companies are. And that's
Really?
also, yeah, very interesting to see, like, people, when you are in this type of market, you're stepping back as a resource professional. Like if I was internal in a company right now, you might be hiring less, but you're being very thoughtful about how do you solve the challenges right now. And that might not be hiring more people, but it might be pivoting to doing something new. So seeing that with a lot of more traditional finance companies as well.
So when you talk to founders, what are you seeing? Where are they focusing their energy and attention right now?
Adoption, I would say. So I think there's a lot of great products that exist in the Bitcoin space. Some of the new companies that I'm working with, they're focused more on how do we get the next layer of Bitcoiners to onboard. And I think people are thinking about it in the right ways. You know, the messaging that convinced you and I to be Bitcoiners is going to be very different than the messaging that would convince tomorrow's Bitcoiners. So making things really user friendly. I think there's a maturity in the space. So I'm seeing, people really care a lot right now about the design of the product and the user experience, which has been less developed so far. I mean, we have so many companies working on things, but we're still early in getting the right product to market.
You know what's so interesting? You made me think of something. The other day, I saw a clip. I think it was Bloomberg shared it, and they were interviewing a woman. I forgot her name. I hadn't seen or heard of her before, but I guess she had made headlines because she said that we shouldn't ask children what they want to be when they grow up. And at first, I was a little taken aback and turned off. But then I heard her answer, and it was actually very insightful and interesting. She said two things. Number one, we shouldn't attach what we do to our entire identity. So it shouldn't be whatever your career is defines you. But secondly, the jobs that exist today might not exist in the future. So we shouldn't tie our expectations and hopes to something that might evolve and change. So we should instead be asking kids, what problem do you want to solve? Because the problems are probably going to exist, and the solutions might be the solutions is what we should be focusing on. So I thought it was kind of interesting. And so, what problems exist in the space that these founders are trying to solve, and that the people they need to recruit are working to solve as well?
Wow. Please send that to me. That sounds really interesting. I love that. I think as a kid, you get lost in so many people I know, they wanted to be like doctors or
Yeah.
lawyers because we're told our generation, like, that's the best job to have. And
Yep.
I wish more people knew about tech, that you don't have to
Yeah.
be an engineer to work in the tech space. Okay, so what's the problem? I think the problem right now is like, how do I onboard my mom to Bitcoin? Or, for example, last weekend, went to the Memorial Day barbecue with friends. And these are friends that I grew up with. Now, I usually don't like try to pressure people about Bitcoin, but they know that I do it. And if they ask me about it, I'll tell them. But this is like the first time where there's like six people, they're asking me about Bitcoin. They want to know what they need to do. And these are my friends. They're not in my, tech world. They're not in my professional world. These are like family friends. And I think that's the greatest problem to solve is like, how do we onboard those people? Because I'm practicing like the messaging I use with my friends. And, if I take one turn, I'll lose their attention. So
Yeah.
it's just finding the key messaging to convince someone to be interested in Bitcoin. And then when you're building an app or product, it's how do you make an app engaging, interesting to use? So I'm working with a company now. They're called Satoshi. It's by Dallas Rushing and Chris Hunter. They're building the Bitcoin banking app for everyone. I'm very excited about that. So then I have other clients that are taking a different approach. One's like a gaming company, and they're gaming company first, Bitcoin company second,
Oh.
and they're building like really wonderful mobile games, but then they're going to be using Lightning and Bitcoin. And I think that can also be, the key to adoption is people will be using this technology and they don't know what it is.
Does this company by any chance? Or no?
Mm-mm.
Different one. Okay.
So they're outside of the Bitcoin space. They're a big
Okay.
gaming company. And yeah, I could share more information about them
Okay.
later, but
That
it's
is
pretty
interesting.
exciting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the gaming stuff is really interesting to me. So are there certain skills or backgrounds that seem to be lacking in the Bitcoin community, that is just would be really marketable, really great if founders found people that have these particular
Yeah.
skills?
I think so. I think engineering, we have like a wealth of talent, a lot of, early adopters, people who are on the cutting edge. They're in the Bitcoin space. But what I see is just like less soft skilled people than engineering people. But I see those people are coming in. So we need more marketers. We need more human resources people. I know that's a tricky one. So as we mature as an industry, I think next, the next layer of talent is going to be like communicators, people who can fine tune this messaging for the masses.
Are there certain companies or roles that are harder to fill?
Yes. I have found that remote jobs are motivating and they're easy to fill. Jobs that aren't remote, it's very challenging. And that it just, if you're hiring top talent, the most talented people usually have earned certain privileges in their career. And if they want to spend their day, half of the time with their family, doing their daily routine at home and working remote, they've earned the right to do so. So, yeah, I know some people are hiring still in office, and I would say that it's really challenging to do that. Sometimes, though, for like an incubator or an accelerator program, a couple months is not too much to ask for, but just something to keep in mind if you're a hiring manager. Seems the best talented people want remote jobs.
I mean, I think that speaks to the larger labor market in general.
Yeah,
People really want to work from home and they want the most options and most flexibility possible. But there are still companies that I think there is something to be said about going into the office, having that daily interaction, having I don't know, I think more expectations are placed on you. Whereas, doing work in your pajamas,
yeah,
you might not be as productive. I think it depends, I guess, on the person. But
the
okay,
balance.
I was also curious, why did you call it layer 4? Layer 2 is lightning. What is layer 3 and what is layer 4?
Yeah. So, well, with layer one being Bitcoin, layer two being Lightning, and then layer three, we say are like the applications, products people are building. And I'm suggesting that layer four is the people building
The
those
social.
apps and projects. Yeah. So the people behind it, the fourth layer. And that's what I'm trying to do at layer four talent. So hiring those people that are going to be building the products of tomorrow.
Okay, so last recruitment question, and then we'll go on to another topic. What's your advice for people who really want to work in this space, whether that's part-time, because they're just passionate, they want to keep their day job, or they want to actually transition careers? And for, some people that I've talked to, that's very intimidating because they might have done one thing for 10 years and they feel like they, might have to start over, take a huge salary cut. I mean, what should people know?
Yeah, that's a big question. I would encourage people to work full time in Bitcoin if they can, but all things take time. So the best advice I can give is to try to figure out what you do today that's not in the Bitcoin space and make it relevant. So I mean, we have Bitcoiners out there that are winemakers, but they're still making wine. They're just selling their product for Bitcoin. So you can do a crossover like that. I would say sometime, depending your circumstance, it can be worth it to take a risk, especially if you're not happy in your job. Taking a pay cut might be a good option if you can afford it, and you're someone who's motivated by the mission of the company. Yeah, I would just get out there and start talking to companies, and you'll get ideas. Like, be positive, talk to companies about what you do, learn about other companies, and ideas will come, opportunities will come.
Bitcoin is such a meritocratic space. Yet at the same time, we have to admit that we need more diversity, more women. So do you find companies trying to seek out, candidates that are a little bit different?
Yeah, I do. I think we all want more diverse candidates. For example, like women, engineering leaders that are women in Bitcoin are harder to find right now. What I try to do is just widen the funnel, try to at least find one woman, like minimum for each process. But even that practice, that's usually a standard of mine, it can be hard to do in the Bitcoin space. So I think for those of us concerned about it, it's a matter of now, how do we invest resources to help solve that problem? Something that I need to do is, get on a board of advisors at a education, tech, women's education type of thing, and I know, other women leaders in the space, they're trying to get involved in these education programs. I think that's the next step to be able to inform more people about Bitcoin and get more women working in the space.
It's something I think about a lot lately because I'm just curious what's going to drive that next adoption cycle. I think it's totally clear why there were so many people hopping on board during the stimulus and the height of, everything. Number go up everywhere. It was like the S&P 500 hitting an all-time high every week, and Bitcoin and all the crypto, and everyone was pouring money in the meme stocks. But what's going to be that next driver? Because I think for a lot of people, especially over the last year, if they were outside of the space or skeptical, they saw FTX and some of the other companies implode and they thought, wow, I'm glad I didn't invest, or, oh my gosh, I lost money and I don't want to venture back in. What will make people look at Bitcoin and take it very seriously? And what will drive that next adoption cycle?
I think it's going to be the number go up, because that's what will build trust again, right? The number being high, if Bitcoin goes to 100,000, people will be like, oh, wow. They'll take notice, and they'll think about the last time they should have bought, and they'll buy in. Um, yeah, I think also maybe we'll start seeing more products that are companies that exist outside of the Bitcoin space, but they start a Bitcoin offering. So I think like Fidelity Bank started offering something related to Bitcoin. I know like MicroStrategy, they're not a company in the Bitcoin space, but they're offering, services now with Lightning. So others would be like Cash App. They have a Bitcoin element to them. So I think those are the companies that are going to really lead the way for the next group of Bitcoiners. And, people will be using the technology. Maybe it'll be this game. They're using Lightning and they don't realize, it's Bitcoin, and that learning comes after, somewhere in the process, depending on the product.
It's time for another quick break to hear these messages from my partners. Next up, I want to share with you about CrowdHealth, which is a Bitcoin alternative to health insurance. Health insurance costs are sky high today, and you send your money every month to a massive corporation, and then you never see that money again, even if you don't need a doctor. But if you do need care, you end up having to pay even more out of pocket, especially if you end up as one of the 20% of claims on average that aren't covered. With CrowdHealth, you pay a small monthly fee that goes into an account that you accrue over time and is yours to use or keep if you ever leave. And you can even convert that money into Bitcoin. CrowdHealth is all about community, and the community crowdfunds everyone's healthcare. So if something happens to you and you need medical care, CrowdHealth negotiates down the medical bill lower than what insurance would be, and then the community helps you cover it. And in turn, you help cover others' needs, which has been so rewarding. I am so glad I switched to this program. And for more information, you can head to joincrowdhealth.com/Natalie and use promo code Natalie for a discount. I am so excited to share that I have joined OrangePill app as an advisor. If you haven't downloaded this app yet, you are missing out on connecting with Bitcoiners in your area. The OrangePill app is building the social layer for Bitcoin and helping to create opportunities for in-person connections and community building. You can create a profile and you will see lots of familiar faces there. And then you can search for Bitcoiners or Bitcoin events based on your location. I am geotagged in my home base, St. Louis, and I'm super grateful because the OrangePill app has helped connect me with Bitcoiners in my new city. So come join us, download the OrangePill app, and head to theorangepillapp.com for more information. All right, back to the show. What are your favorite Bitcoin or Lightning products or applications right now? And what do you think is missing? What's like a dream product or app that you want to see?
Yeah. Favorite first thing that comes to mind is Wallet of Satoshi, because that's that problem I mentioned, like how do you easily onboard people? I was able to send Wallet of Satoshi to my dad and send him his first sats. And he's very, he's risk averse. It's taken a long time to get him interested in Bitcoin, but you have to give someone their first Bitcoin, I think, and then they start to pay attention to it.
Wallet of Satoshi is great.
Yeah, so easy apps for onboarding people. Other products that I love, I would say, of course, IBEX. That's pretty cool that you could meet someone who is at a farmer's market, and I could have them pull out their phone, and in 2 minutes I have them set up with a POS system on their phone, able to accept Bitcoin or cash. Like they have the sliding scale, however much you want. That's very powerful. So I think when, the market's ready, when more and more people are interested in Bitcoin, these products will be there to receive them and onboard them quickly.
I love that. All right. So a couple of last questions, because I was curious a little bit about why you decided to move back home. Well, you've been around the
Yeah.
world and you're working in this very, you know, high, fast-paced tech space, but you chose to go back to Paradise. And I wanted to mention too, I've actually had the chance to go to Paradise, but it was sadly for a very tragic
Yeah.
story when I was a reporter. I was a reporter up in Sacramento, not too far away from you, and there was that historic fire, and it was deadly, and it was one of the most tragic events that I've ever covered. And I would love to hear, if that impacted you and your family, and just why you made the decision to move closer to home.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, during the time of the fire, I wasn't here. I was living in Paris at that time. But it impacted everyone. Like everyone I know lost their home. My parents, they were so lucky. Like 5% of the structures in the whole town stayed, and my parents' house stayed. But they had a
Wow.
lot of cleanup and things aftermath. The trees on the side of the house burned, so it
Gosh.
affected everyone. It definitely brought the community closer together. I moved home, I guess, 2 years after that. We're rebuilding, so yeah, my partner and I, we live out on property. We have like a unit right now we're staying in, and then we'll build our dream home. So there's some good things coming out of it.
I
Excuse
love
me.
it. And you like to homestead, right? You have like a little
Hmm.
farm. You like to be out in nature.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have like a full farm one day. So having like goats and chickens. Right now we just have the cats, but we've planted a lot of fruit trees. I'm a big gardener. So yeah, okay, before I was living in Europe and really just enjoyed the culture. Working over there was really nice, really easy to get around. But always whenever I've lived in cities, I get a bit stressed out. And I think it's from growing up in a small town and, for a long time, like lying to myself and thinking like, I like the city, I want to be here, but I would always get overwhelmed. And even the noises that you're exposed to, the sound pollution, it's so different. Like waking up and you hear cars honking versus now waking up and I hear the birds chirping and wind blowing. It's different. And I think, yeah, it's just trying to, enjoy life to the fullest. I work remotely. Now I can be 5 minutes from my parents, spend as much time with them as I can. And it's such a life hack. Like I can take this meeting with you and then afterwards I'm gonna like go walk around in the garden and take a little break, enjoy.
I love
Yeah,
that.
so it's nice. I recommend getting out into nature when you can.
I love that. And it's kind of like the Italian saying, right? Il dolce far niente. We have to take the
Hmm.
time off. There's beauty in doing nothing. Americans don't do that enough. Why do
Yeah.
you think that? I mean, homesteading is something I hear a lot about in the Bitcoin space, and a lot of people wanting to move out of the big cities and into sort of more rural communities and farm and cultivate their own food. Why do you think that ethos is becoming more and more prevalent, specifically in the Bitcoin community?
Yeah. I think I grew up a small towner. I think the Bitcoin ethos is so similar to the small town. You're more sovereign in a small town. You have to fend for yourself to some degree. And the values are the same. So it's valuing freedom. It's don't trust, verify, grow your own food. You can't trust what's in the stores these days, within reason, of course. But I think it's an aspiration if, we have these Bitcoiners who are all independent and seeking freedom, a key step in that journey is getting some more freedom around you, around your physical space.
So, going back to what you said earlier about how you think that Bitcoin can bring about a better future and you have hope, what does that better future look like to you? If we think of a world on the Bitcoin standard, what is that to Martell?
Wow. Big question. I think, yeah, hopefully everything just becomes more efficient. I think we're in this crazy moment where the systems in place are literally falling apart and, the structures can't keep up with the times. And a lot of them, though, it's like we're still stuck in it. And you can recognize the political system is broken. You talk to anyone it doesn't matter if they're on the left or the right, but they recognize it's broken, it's not working. Yet we're all still putting up this charade like it can be okay and things are fine, and no one's taking initiative because it is a huge problem to solve. I think that, yeah, Bitcoin is an inspiration because it's this decentralized way of being, a way of banking. So I would hope that that same mindset is adopted throughout. I think, like for the United States, for us to be successful, again, maybe, states themselves need to have more power. We need to decentralize in that way. People lean into sovereignty and like taking care of their own community first, and just stop with the like left versus right. Like that's what drives me crazy. I think, yeah, if we were running a business, and Americans, that's one thing we do well is business. Like you can't have anyone take that from us. But then, in a company, if people are arguing all the time before working, like human resource problem, like that person or those people would be out. You don't have the job if you're always arguing. And then we have the government right now, everyone's arguing and debating all the time. Nothing's getting done. I think hopefully America will start being run like a business someday. And I have faith that we can do that. We have that within us and we have those values there. We're just going, sometimes things have to get worse before they get better. And old things need to fall apart and break so that new things can be built. So I'm optimistic Bitcoin plays a key role in that. And yeah, it's only a matter of time, I hope.
I love that. That's very well said. And you're right. Maybe America does have a little bit of a HR issue right now.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I'm,
feels
I'm
like
so
it.
grateful to talk to you. I'm so grateful that this space introduced us. I just want to say thank you for just how kind and sweet you've always been to me. You're beautiful inside and out. I hope people get to know you through this podcast. And if they want to find you, if they want to learn more about your company, where should they go?
Oh, where should they go? And thank you for the kind words. They should go to layer4talent.com, or I have a Twitter or just my own personal Twitter. Feel free to send me a message if you're looking for a job, if you are recruiting a job, and happy to connect. Hopefully we'll meet at events as well. I try to get out to those. But
Mhm.
thank you, Natalie, for having me on here and making me feel so comfortable since I met you, and inspiring myself and other women in the space. And yeah, you do so good at what you're doing, and it's very admirable.
Well, thank you. The pleasure and honor is all on this side. So, Martell, thank you so much. And I'll have all that information in the show notes. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. This show is also made possible by iTrust Capital, where you can save in Bitcoin for your retirement. iTrust lets you invest with the tax benefits of an IRA. You can defer taxes on gains using a crypto IRA, or with a Roth IRA, you can withdraw tax-free at retirement. And here are some important things to know. iTrust does not lend against client assets, and iTrust accounts are FDIC insured up to $250,000 US. So if you're doing retirement planning and considering adding Bitcoin to your portfolio, you can sign up for an account and get a $100 bonus at itrust.capital/Natalie Brunell. Thank you so much for watching the video version of this show. I really want to hear from you. If you have suggestions or guest recommendations, you can email me at natalie@talkingbitcoin.com. Please subscribe if you want more content, and I'll see you next time.